Well,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Topics with Mr. Javadi. This time I'm making sure that it's recording because earlier we did this and it didn't record. That was my fault completely. But I'm learning. I'm learning, and it's recording now. So you all know that technology is not a plus for me. But if I get a C out of it, I'll be very happy. So I'm working on it, and I'll do better. So. But we are joined with our neighbor to the north, our cousin from Canada, the two C's. Her name's Kayla. And Kayla, thank you very much for joining us. Please go ahead and introduce yourself to us from Manitoba, Canada.
You. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. Like you said, my name is Kyla, and I am from Neepawa, Manitoba. I am also a university student, so I'm going into my fourth year at the University of Ottawa this fall. And as a summer job, I have been very lucky to work at the Margaret Laurence home as a summer student, taking care of the house and sharing the wonderful legacy of Margaret Laurence with all of the visitors.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And so it's pronounced Kyla, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, all right. All right, that's all right. We remain humble. That's the key. All right.
That's right.
So, Kyla, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time in advance, and especially with today. This is the second take. So, a special thank you to you and the home, the management there, everybody there in Manitoba. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me start out by asking you to talk about a little bit about where Margaret Lawrence was born and raised, actually.
Yeah, so on the screen here, you can see the house that she grew up in. She lived here from when she was 9 years old until she was 18. And she was born and raised in Neepawa. So she had lived in Neepawa from when she was born until she was 18. She was born on July 18th, 1926. And so next year would have been her 100th birthday celebration, which we will still celebrate, even though she's not here anymore. So yeah, she was born and raised in Neepawa, Manitoba, just like myself.
Okay.
This is the main street, Mountain Avenue.
Is your audio okay?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just delayed a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to
Uh,
continue on here?
Yeah, we're looking at some town settings here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the main street, Mountain Avenue. And
Hmm.
on the left here is a picture of the main street around the time when Margaret Laurence would have grown up in Neepawa. And then on the right is that same street, but taken much more recently. And then this is the courthouse in Neepawa. And again, the picture on the left represents more so when she was growing up here, whereas the picture on the right is closer to present day. And same thing with this street. So this is Hamilton Street in Neepawa. And this one is a really neat picture because on the left, you can see this old building is the Roxy Theater. And
Hmm.
you can see it says the Roxy up there. And then again
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
right side, this is a newer one. You can see the Roxy is still there today, which is pretty neat. So that's Neepawa.
That's very, very nice. So some definite history there for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and you pronounce that Nipua, right?
Neepawa. Yeah. You
Okay.
pronounced it right.
Well, live and learn. I mean, you guys have so much. I was looking at images, which, by the
Mhm.
way, I've done before. I've done that before, looking at images of Manitoba because I just think it's gorgeous. It's picturesque. The nature scenery is amazing. It
Yeah.
kind of speaks to me of the idea that there's a nice balance between the old and the new. Um, and you guys have really done a very fine job of that. Would that be accurate?
I would say so. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
neat that a lot of the buildings have been taken care of over the years, and I find that in all of the small towns across Manitoba that the historic nature of them has been well preserved.
which is wonderful, which is absolutely wonderful. You
Mhm.
you look at those wilderness pictures, and my goodness, it's like they
Yeah,
speak to you.
yeah,
And I'm sure that that setting probably spoke to Margaret Lawrence. So why don't you talk about that a
absolutely.
little bit? The speaking of the setting to Margaret Lawrence.
Yeah, so Neepawa was very, very important to her, being the place that she was born and raised. And when she began to write her Manawanka series, which includes The Stone Angel, one of her more popular books, you can tell that when you're reading these novels, that the town of Manawanka, the fictional town that she created, has a lot of characteristics that Neepawa has. And so
Mm.
that just represents how much Neepawa resonated with her. And she took those qualities and put them into her own writing, which I think is very neat. And even talking about the prairies too, she includes that in her books as well.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I can see that. I can see the connection because it is so inspiring of a
Yeah.
setting. I guess that would be one way of saying it. By the way, I've been to Canada. I've been to British
Okay.
Columbia, Alberta, the Yukon. I went up to Alaska and came back. And so those areas I've seen. Manitoba, I plan to
Oh
one
my
day.
goodness.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I plan to
You
one day.
should, you should.
Yeah,
BC and Alberta are definitely beautiful, but I think each province has its own uniqueness, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Where was he educated?
So Margaret Lawrence went to the Neepawa Area Collegiate, which is our high school, and this is the same school that I went to, which is pretty neat to know that we went to the same high school. So this is where she went to school when she was younger, and then she went to United College for her post high school studies, I guess. So the picture on the left shows United College in the 1960s, again around the time that she would have been there. The United College is actually now the University of Winnipeg. And so the picture on the right is a more recent photo, which again, it's very neat to see that they have preserved the history of this building.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, makes you feel like seeing some kind of an Oxford movie or something. I mean, it looks so
Yeah,
similar.
right.
That's it. Very
It's pretty
nice.
cool.
Yeah, I like it. I like those types of buildings, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, very nice, very nice. So that is really kind of a very strict education that she did, and she came out of it very successful. Who were her influences? And I guess we'll
Yeah.
talk about just general
Yeah.
influences
So
and then writing influences. Yeah, go ahead.
right. Yeah, sure. So I did forget to mention that she took her degree in English literature, which makes sense based on her writing and everything. So that was what she took at school. And she wrote a lot in the student newspaper. She included poems in there. A lot of her earlier short stories were in there. And so part of that were the people that influenced her. And Mildred Musgrove was one of those individuals. This was one of Margaret's teachers growing up. And she really encouraged Margaret to write. She critiqued her works, made sure that she fixed any sort of grammar issues for Margaret. She encouraged her, she pushed her, and they even became lifelong friends. So she was an individual that held a big piece of Margaret's heart. And
Well,
another influence was actually Margaret's stepmom, too. And she was also a teacher, and she pushed Margaret to go to university to learn more about writing and to even be creative with it, too. So those were two of her influences close to home. And
mhm.
then some of her inspirations were Margaret Atwood and W.O. Mitchell. And these individuals really, I think, they influenced Margaret, they encouraged her, and I think her reading some of their novels really helped with her creativity and all of the writing that she did do.
Margaret Atwood came to the University of Northern Colorado years ago, which is where I was
Mhm.
attending, and gave speeches and met with us afterwards at the professor's house where we discussed more. And both in the
Yeah.
classroom as well as the house, she was one of the nicest people I've ever met. And you didn't get the feeling that she was a celebrity. You felt like you were talking to your neighbor, you know. And it was just
Right.
that's something I always remember. Uh, in that
Yeah.
school, there was a
And that's really
professor.
cool because that it
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
I was just gonna I was just gonna say that it's really neat that you remember her that way and that she was a very genuine person. I think that's so important because you don't know that about some of the bigger celebrities. You have to meet them for yourself to know what kind of person they
Yeah,
are. So that's very
for
neat.
sure. For sure. So, not too far from those locations, there was a professor who's passed away now by the name of Norm Piercy. And Norm was reminds me of this other individual you talked about regarding, well, in the previous photo, the Musgrove person,
Oh, yeah.
regarding grammar and the significance of grammar and writing. And he one time made a statement that to master a language, you need to know its grammar and its poetry and balance the two. And that really, in many ways, I think, speaks to what you're just now mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a really neat quote.
Well, thank you. I want to make sure I get that in. So, anyway, yeah. So, who were her? Well, you mentioned that. What were the issues that Margaret Lawrence cared about? I know a little bit of research that I did after I messed up this morning. I had some time, so I looked and I've seen this before, but it looks like she really did care about peace. She was a peace
Yeah,
activist. Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Peace
yeah.
was a huge part of what she was passionate about. And actually, this just reminded me, but we actually fly a peace flag outside of the house
Mm,
just to represent how much she cared for this topic and just how far she like promoted it, I guess. And even she talks about it in her writing as well. So peace was a huge part of something that she was passionate about, as well women's rights, freedom of choice, cultural empathy, and even mental health. And I have a couple passages here that I'll read from her memoir, Dance on the Earth, that kind of highlight these different values. So the first one is I could never accept the idea that my life should be defined by someone else's expectations.
mhm,
And I think this really shows that she knew her value, she knew what she had to offer, and she wasn't going to let someone tell her otherwise. Another
mhm,
one was the women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, my friends were the ones who taught me strength. And that goes to show how influential the female figures were in her life. She also goes on to say, we are not footnotes to men's stories, we are the stories. And I think that is a very bold statement because at the time when she would have been writing that, thinking about that, it was kind of a taboo subject. It wasn't really spoken about very much.
mhm.
A few more that I have here. In Africa, I learned to look at my own country with different eyes. And I think that speaks to cultural empathy because I don't think you really understand what you have and what others maybe don't have, or if they have something different until you're actually living there and experiencing someone else's life. As for
Yeah.
mental health, she says, there were times when I doubted everything, the worth of my work, my role as a mother, even the value of my own life. But the
Mm,
words kept coming. Excuse me. And I think that's so strong and powerful because, again, mental health was a very taboo subject to talk about. And
mm,
the fact that she was super open about that, despite all of the success that she had throughout her life, yet she still recognizes that she has had her own struggles. And finally, for peace and social justice, she says, if we can't build a world in which our children are safe, then what use is all our art and learning? which again just emphasizes how much she advocated for peace.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, John Lennon, all we are saying is give peace a chance. And I guess she was not only doing that, but she was doing more than that, just being
Yes,
out there doing all the activism.
absolutely.
So, yeah, blessings to both of them. They're both gone, but they were both major figures. Um, what books reflected the issues that you just mentioned that she cared about?
Yeah, so I think that all of her books really do represent a lot of these values that she has. However,
Mhm.
ones that maybe stick out more than others would be A Jest of God, The Stone Angel, The Fire Dwellers, A Bird in the House, The Diviners, and then, of
Mhm.
course, Dance on the Earth, her memoir, which really speaks to those values.
Her best-selling books.
Yeah, so her best-selling book is absolutely The Stone Angel. The Stone Angel is the novel that everyone seemed to have read in high school or studied in university. And when we have visitors come to the home, that's one of the first questions that we ask them is if they've read any of her novels. And the most common answer is The Stone Angel. And I think just everything that is discussed in that novel, the different themes, are so important to learn and understand that I think that's probably why they chose to study it in schools. And
Mhm.
some of her other best-selling books are The Diviners, A Jest of God, The Fire Dwellers, and Dance on the Earth, like I kind of previously mentioned too.
Yes. And I don't expect a perfect answer on this, but your own estimation would work too. How many books would you say she wrote?
I think it's about 16 that she
16. Okay.
has written, and that includes her children's books as well.
Okay. And of course, I think you were saying, or maybe I saw it in my research, that she wrote a lot of short stories as well.
Yeah, she did. And the
Hmm.
novel A Bird in the House is more more or less her combination of all the short stories. They're short little chapters, and I guess it's just all of her short stories brought together. It's not really a novel, I wouldn't say, but those would hold a lot of those stories.
Okay. And then what about the special features of the home? That home is a very special home, and you have
Yes.
had many visitors over the years. You've kept it very well. Um, what are some of the features of the home?
Yeah. So some of the ones that I could think of, I'll share with you. And so the first one is this beautiful engraving on the sidewalk. And this is at the entrance. So it's right before the sidewalk that leads to the porch. And
Hmm.
J. Simpson, the J stands for John. So John Simpson was Margaret's maternal grandfather. And he was the one who owned this house. So, like I said, she didn't live in this house her whole life. She lived here from when she was about 9, 10 until she was 18. So she moved into this house with her grandparents. And I just always think this is a really neat thing to see because you don't see these things everywhere. And it's neat that it's in such good condition too. So that's the first one that I would
Okay.
share. And the second one is this beautiful scroll work up here. And this has a neat story behind it because it was actually taken out of the house at one point. It was painted over, and I guess they found it in a barn. They found that it had been painted over, and they actually stripped the paint from this woodwork. So it's in great condition considering the journey that it had been on.
You had been saying some things earlier, anyway, about the stained glass. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this stained glass here,
Hmm.
yeah, so this one We're very lucky to have it in the house because it was actually in the house that Margaret grew up in until she was 9 years old. So, from when she was born until she was 9, she lived in a different house. And this was in that house. And unfortunately, it was torn down many years ago. But they decided to keep this stained glass, donated it to the home, and now it's on display for everyone to see. And it is quite beautiful.
Wow. The
And this next one,
yeah, yeah.
these, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the preservance of this tradition is just so beautiful to me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is very, very neat. And again, something else that has been well taken care of are these original chairs that were made
Mhm.
by John Simpson, her grandfather. And you can see they're in really good shape. And just all of the detail on the armrests here are just very, very incredible. And we're
Mm.
very fortunate to have them in the home today.
Yeah, it's wonderful, really is. So there's a lot that visitors really can take from this that they can look forward to.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here are her wallet and gloves as well.
Hmm.
And these are really neat too, because these are the glasses that she wore and the wallet that she
Well,
carried all her cash in. We also have her university robes, and this just represents how much she valued her education and how far she went in university as well. And then we have her desk and typewriter. And this, I think, is a very, very neat part of the house because it only have the typewriter, but it has her desk as well. So just seeing that, seeing where she did all of her.
yeah, very beautiful. Once upon a time, years ago, I had a typewriter like that. Um, so yeah, no, that's wonderful. Two places I like to go
Sorry,
to when I
I'm
have
just
any
having
time.
a
No, that's fine. We're two places that I like to go to, to visit antique stores and bookstores. Because I get a sense of history when I do that, and it's like stepping back in time in some ways. And you guys have really done a good job of that. It's wonderful.
If anybody wants to come and visit the home, we have many different ways to get into contact with us. We have an email, a phone number, our Facebook, and a website as well. And we highly encourage people to email us. I think it's the best way for us to respond because sometimes the phone rings after hours and we can't always get to it as fast as, say, an email where we do have access to that outside of the hours. So, absolutely, send us an email if you want to come and tour the home. We are open until the end of August, 10
Hmm.
a.m. until 5 p.m., 7 days a week. But we do also accommodate if you are coming from out of town and you really want to see the home, one of
Hmm.
us can come and open the museum for you.
That's just phenomenal. That's called hospitality. Everyone, did you hear that? That's wonderful. That is awesome. Uh, okay, so words of wisdom as we wrap up. And I'm not saying you don't have hospitality. Don't get me wrong, but notice it. Notice it in what they do. Um, so words of wisdom. Words of wisdom from you about young people who are watching this, and they're thinking about possibly they're in high school or maybe they're in first year community college or something like that, and they really are kind of wondering about maybe doing a museum career or possibly a writer's career. I guess your pieces of advice on both of those.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I think to follow your own name. Working in a museum is one of those. Do your research. Doing the research, being here and working here has been a very rewarding experience. I've learned so, so much. And I think it makes you a better candidate to work in a museum. It makes you a better person. And being knowledgeable on these topics is very important as well. And I would also
Mhm.
say go out and see what's in your own community. I was very oblivious to the Margaret Laurence home. I'm from Neepawa, and I had only been in the house once when I was really young and did not learn a whole lot. And so this whole experience has been very, very rewarding. So I would say go for it. Follow your dreams and don't let anybody hold you back.
Okay, and you also had stated briefly that you do some writing yourself. So, um, but just general advice to
Yeah.
those who may not have confidence to write, and your thoughts for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that writing is a very special a very special way to express your thoughts, express your feelings. And I think at the end of the day, we're all writers. And whether it's something that pops into your head or you're out and about walking and you see something and it reminds you of something and you just want to write it down, pull out your phone, type it out. If you have paper on you, write it down. If your laptop is in front of you, just write it down. I think it's so powerful that we all have those moments in our life. I think we do anyways. I think it's
Hmm.
really special to share what you're thinking. And I think Margaret Lawrence is a really great example of this.
Well, Kyla, I just want to thank you very, very much for doing this twice today. Thank you for your grace and uh, your understanding. And right after we're done, I'm going to check to see if it recorded. But I'm pretty sure it did this time. But really, really thankful for the time you spent today, and my thanks also to the management for allowing this to happen. So, God willing, in the future, we'll work on other things with one another again. I'll be in touch. But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Best of wishes to you in your college pursuits, and as you approach that in the fall. And thank you so much again for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here and to be a part of the wonderful YouTube channel that you are putting on. I think it's wonderful, and I think you're helping a lot of people learn about different topics, which I think is really cool. So thank you. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Topics with Mr. Javadi. Like and subscribe. Thank you.